I remember staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror that Friday morning, noticing the dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide anymore. The November rain hammered against the window of our apartment in downtown Seattle, creating a rhythmic backdrop to another silent breakfast with my husband, Brandon. He sat across from me at our kitchen table, scrolling through his phone with that distant expression I had grown so familiar with over the past 2 years. I worked as a data analyst for Cascade Technologies, a mid-sized software company nestled in the heart of the city's tech district. My job involved diving deep into user behavior patterns, identifying trends that could save the company millions, and presenting complex findings in ways that made sense to people who had never looked at a spreadsheet in their lives. It was demanding, often invisible work. The kind of work where success meant preventing problems that nobody would ever know could have happened. Brandon, on the other hand, was a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company. He closed deals, shook hands, took clients to expensive dinners, and came home with stories about his victories. His wins were loud, public, celebrated. Mine were quiet, buried in reports that maybe 5 people in the company would ever fully read. That morning, I mentioned the company holiday party scheduled for that evening. It was being held at the Rainier Grand, one of those historic hotels downtown with crystal chandeliers and marble floors that made you feel like you should be wearing something more expensive than what you owned. My boss, Patricia Helms, had sent 3 reminder emails that week, each one more emphatic than the last about attendance, being strongly encouraged. Brandon barely looked up from his phone. His coffee sat untouched, going cold. "Do I have to go?" he asked, his tone making it clear he had already decided the answer should be no. "These things are always so boring. Just a bunch of people from your office talking about work stuff I don't understand." I felt something tighten in my chest, a familiar sensation I had started recognizing over the past year. It was not quite anger, not quite sadness. Something in between, something that tasted like disappointment mixed with resignation. I wanted to tell him that his presence mattered to me, that after 3 years of marriage, having him by my side at important work events should not feel like pulling teeth. Instead, I simply said that it would mean a lot to me if he came, that these events were important for my career, for showing my face, for being part of the team beyond just the reports I submitted. He sighed, the kind of theatrical sigh that teenagers make when their parents ask them to do chores. "Fine," he said, setting his phone down with more force than necessary. "I will go, but we are not staying late. I have an early tea time tomorrow with some clients." I thanked him, hating myself a little for feeling grateful that my husband had agreed to attend a work function with me. As I gathered my things for the office, my laptop bag heavy with the weight of my portable workstation and the quarterly analysis I had been perfecting for weeks, Brandon was already back on his phone, laughing at something, his thumbs moving rapidly across the screen, probably texting his college buddies or his work friends, people he actually enjoyed spending time with. The drive to Cascade Technologies took 40 minutes in typical Seattle traffic. Rain continued to fall, turning the streets into rivers of reflected neon and brake lights. I parked in the underground garage and took the elevator to the 7th floor, where our department sprawled across an open office plan that the company insisted fostered collaboration, but really just meant everyone could hear everyone else's conversations. My desk sat near the window, a small mercy that let me watch the city wake up each morning. I had decorated it minimally. A small succulent plant that somehow survived despite my sporadic watering schedule. A framed photo of Brandon and me from our honeymoon in Costa Rica back when his smiles toward me were genuine and frequent. And a coffee mug that read data does not lie that my coworker Stephanie had given me as a joke. Stephanie occupied the desk next to mine. She was younger than me by 5 years, 20 to my 33, with an energy and optimism about work that I envied. She was already at her desk when I arrived, despite it being barely 8 in the morning, her fingers flying across her keyboard as she hummed along to whatever was playing in her earbuds. She noticed me settling in and pulled out one earbud. "Morning," she said cheerfully. "Ready for tonight? I heard they are doing a whole production this year." Live band, open bar, the works. Patricia really pushed the budget on this one. I managed a smile, powering up my computer and watching the dual monitors flicker to life. As ready as I will ever be, I replied. Brandon is coming, so at least I will not be flying solo. Stephanie's expression shifted slightly, a brief shadow crossing her face before she recovered with a smile. That is great, she said, in that tone people use when they're trying to be supportive but do not quite believe what they are saying. I am bringing my girlfriend, Claire. You two should meet. She works in biotech, might have some interesting perspectives on the pharmaceutical sales world. The mention of Brandon's industry felt pointed, though I could not quite articulate why. Stephanie had met Brandon twice before at company events, and while she had been perfectly polite, I had noticed a certain coolness in her interactions with him. Some people just do not click, I had told myself, but deep down I wondered if she saw something I was trying hard not to see. The morning disappeared into spreadsheets and data visualizations. I was working on a comprehensive analysis of user engagement patterns for our flagship product, a project management software that had over 200,000 active users. The data told a fascinating story about how people actually used the product versus how the product team thought they used it. There were inefficiencies, bottlenecks, features that users loved that were buried 3 menus deep, and prominent features that barely anyone touched. This analysis had consumed my last 3 months. I had run queries, built models, conducted user interviews, and synthesized everything into a presentation that I believed could fundamentally shift how the company approached product development. Patricia had reviewed it twice, each time coming back with minor notes, but overall enthusiasm. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we need, she had told me during our last one-on-one meeting. This is the work that separates good analysts from exceptional ones. But Brandon had never asked to see it. The few times I had tried to explain what I was working on, his eyes glazed over. Sounds complicated, he would say, before changing the subject to something about his own work. He would tell elaborate stories about difficult clients he had won over, about sales strategies that had paid off, about his numbers and his commissions and his rankings on the regional leaderboard. I would listen, ask questions, celebrate his victories, and feel the growing gap between us widen a little more each time. Lunch came and went. I ate a sad desk salad while reviewing my presentation one more time, tweaking a transition here, adjusting color scheme there. The office slowly emptied as people left early to prepare for the evening event. By 4 o'clock, only a handful of us remained, and Stephanie was packing up her things. You should go home and get ready, she said, slinging her bag over her shoulder. Take some time to make yourself feel good. These parties are actually kind of fun once you get into them. Plus, rumor has it there might be some announcements tonight. Announcements? I asked, curious despite myself. Stephanie had a talent for picking up office gossip, though she was never malicious about it. She shrugged, a playful smile on her face. Just whispers. You know how it is. But Patricia has been in a lot of closed-door meetings lately, and she has that excited energy she gets when something big is happening. I filed this information away and decided to take her advice. I shut down my computer, gathered my things, and headed home through the early winter darkness that Seattle wore like a comfortable coat. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and shining, reflecting the city lights in pools of color. Back at the apartment, I found Brandon already dressed in a dark suit, looking at his phone as he stood by the window. He glanced up when I entered. We need to leave in 45 minutes, he said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. I don't want to be late. Show up, do the thing, and get out. I bit back a response and headed to our bedroom to change. I had bought a new dress for the occasion, a deep emerald green that complemented my skin tone and made me feel elegant without being overdone. It had cost more than I usually spend on clothes, and I had hidden the receipt from Brandon, knowing he would comment about the expense. As I slipped it on and looked at myself in the mirror, I felt a small surge of confidence. I looked professional, polished, ready. When I emerged from the bedroom, Brandon barely glanced up. You look fine, he said, The compliment so lackluster felt worse than saying nothing at all. "Can we go now?" The drive downtown took 20 minutes. Brandon drove, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the steering wheel with unnecessary force. I tried to make conversation, pointing out the holiday lights that were beginning to appear on buildings, mentioning that I hoped the food at the party would be good, asking if he remembered any of my co-workers from previous events. His responses were monosyllabic, distracted. We parked in a garage 2 blocks from the Rainier Grand and walked through the cold evening air. I could hear my heels clicking against the pavement, a lonely sound against the distant rumble of city traffic. Brandon walked slightly ahead of me, hands in his pockets, his body language, screaming that he would rather be anywhere else. The hotel lobby took my breath away. Whoever had planned this event had gone all out. White lights were strung across the ceiling, creating a canopy of stars. A live jazz band played in the corner, their music sophisticated and warm. Round tables covered in cream-colored linens filled the main ballroom, each centerpiece a tasteful arrangement of winter flowers. A bar stretched along one wall, already surrounded by my coworkers, their laughter and conversation creating a pleasant buzz of human connection. I spotted Patricia near the entrance, greeting people as they arrived. She was in her late 40s, with short silver hair she wore with confidence and a sharp eye for detail that made her an exceptional leader. When she saw me, her face lit up. "There you are," she said, pulling me into a brief hug. "You look stunning. And this must be Brandon. We have heard so much about you." Brandon shook her hand with his professional smile, the one he reserved for clients and important people. "Good to meet you," he said, smoothly. "You have quite an operation here. This venue is impressive." Patricia beamed, clearly pleased. "We wanted to do something special this year. The team has worked incredibly hard, and we wanted to celebrate that properly." She turned to me, her expression knowing, especially some team members who have gone above and beyond. Before I could respond, Stephanie appeared with a woman I assumed was Claire. Introductions were made, small talk exchanged. Brandon excused himself almost immediately to get a drink, leaving me standing with the 3 women. I watched him walk away, his shoulders relaxed now that he was away from me, and felt that familiar tightness in my chest return. The evening progressed, as these events do. People mingled, ate appetizers from passing trays, laughed at inside jokes that Brandon would not understand. I introduced him to co-workers as we circulated through the room, and he was polite but distant, checking his phone more often than engaging in conversations. I could feel him growing more impatient with each passing minute, could sense his desire to leave building like pressure before a storm. We found seats at a table with some people from my department. Brandon sat next to me, his leg bouncing under the table, a clear sign of his restlessness. The conversations around us flowed naturally, talk of projects and deadlines and the upcoming holidays. Someone asked Brandon about his work, and he launched into a story about a particularly difficult client he had recently closed. His voice animated in a way it never was when he talked to me anymore. As dinner was served, a surprisingly good salmon with roasted vegetables, Patricia took to the small stage the band had been using. She tapped the microphone, and the room gradually quieted, all eyes turning toward her. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice warm and carrying easily through the space. "I want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for another incredible year. Thank you for your dedication, your creativity, your willingness to tackle challenges that would make lesser teams crumble. Cascade Technologies is not just a company. It is a family, and you all make me proud every single day." Polite applause rippled through the room. Brandon shifted in his seat beside me, and I could almost hear him thinking about how much longer this would take. Patricia continued, her expression growing more serious. "In this industry, we talk a lot about innovation, about disruption, about being ahead of the curve. But those things do not happen by accident. They happen because people in this room do work that nobody sees, work that does not come with immediate glory or recognition, Work that requires patience and precision and a willingness to dig deep into problems until you find solutions that change everything. She paused, letting her words settle over the room. I felt my heart begin to beat a little faster, though I could not have said why. Tonight, I want to recognize someone whose work embodies all of those qualities. Someone who has spent months on a project that is going to fundamentally change how we approach product development. Someone whose analysis revealed insights that our product team had been missing for years. Insights that are projected to increase user retention by 18% and reduce churn by 12% over the next fiscal year. My mouth went dry. The numbers she was quoting were from my report. I had included those projections in my final presentation, carefully calculated based on the data patterns I had identified. Patricia's eyes found mine across the room, and she smiled. I am talking about our senior data analyst, whose tireless work on the user engagement optimization project has earned her our first ever Cascade Innovation Award. Could we have Natalie Brooks come up here, please? The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen, my brain struggling to process what I had just heard. Around me, people were standing, clapping, turning to look at me with genuine smiles and congratulations. Stephanie was beaming, Claire was clapping enthusiastically despite barely knowing me, and my other coworkers were cheering. I turned to Brandon, expecting to see surprise, pride, happiness for me. Instead, his face was set in a hard expression I could not quite read. He was not clapping. He was just sitting there, staring straight ahead, his jaw clenched tight. "Go on," Stephanie urged, touching my shoulder gently. "This is amazing. You deserve this." I stood on shaky legs and made my way through the tables, toward the stage, the applause following me like a wave. As I walked, I heard Brandon's voice cut through the celebration, loud enough for our entire table to hear, his tone dripping with dismissive sarcasm. "Please, it is just data entry. Your job is nothing special." Time slowed in the strangest way. I was halfway to the stage when Brandon's words reached me, carried across the room with perfect, horrible clarity. The applause continued around me, but I could feel the shift at our table, the sudden, uncomfortable silence that fell over the people who had heard him. My feet kept moving forward on autopilot, but my mind was reeling, replaying what he had just said over and over like a record stuck in a groove. Just data entry. Nothing special. I reached the stage, and Patricia's hand was there to help me up the 3 small steps. She was still smiling, unaware of what had just happened at my table, and I tried desperately to arrange my face into something that resembled gratitude and joy rather than the humiliation and shock coursing through me. Patricia handed me a beautiful crystal award, heavy in my hands, etched with the Cascade Technologies logo and the words Innovation Award beneath my name and the year. The applause was still going, people were still standing, but I felt like I was watching everything from behind thick glass, distorted and distant. I should say something, I realized. Patricia was gesturing to the microphone, encouraging me with her eyes. I stepped forward, my hands trembling slightly as I gripped the award. "Thank you," I managed, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. I honestly had no idea this was happening tonight. I cleared my throat, trying to gather my thoughts. The user engagement project was a labor of love for me. I have always believed that data tells stories if we are willing to listen. And the story this data told was about real people trying to use our product to make their work lives easier, to be more productive, to solve real problems. I could see faces in the crowd now. Stephanie was wiping her eyes, actually crying happy tears for me. My other coworkers were nodding along, supportive and genuinely pleased. And at our table, Brandon sat with his arms crossed, his expression thunderous. I continued, my voice growing stronger. This project took months because I wanted to get it right. I wanted to make sure every insight was solid, every recommendation was backed by evidence, every conclusion was something the team could actually act on. And knowing that this work will actually make a difference, that users will have a better experience because of it. That means everything to me. The applause when I finished was even louder than before. Patricia hugged me, whispering that she was so proud, that this was well-deserved, that there would be a significant bonus coming with this award. I nodded numbly, thanked her again, and made my way back to my table on legs that felt like they might give out at any moment. As I approached, I could see that the atmosphere had changed completely. The easy conversation from before was gone, replaced by a tension so thick I could feel it from 10 feet away. Brandon was on his phone, deliberately not looking at anyone. Stephanie's expression was stormy, and the others at the table were carefully studying their plates or drinks, anywhere but at Brandon or me. I sat down, placing the award on the table in front of me. It caught the light, sending small rainbows dancing across the white tablecloth. Nobody spoke for a long moment. The band had started playing again, and conversations were resuming around us, but our table remained an island of uncomfortable silence. Finally, Stephanie could not contain herself any longer. She leaned forward, her voice low but intense. "That was incredibly disrespectful," she said, not to Brandon, but to the table at large, though her meaning was clear. "Natalie just received a major company award, recognition for months of hard work. And to diminish that, to call it just data entry, is not only wrong but cruel." Brandon looked up from his phone, his expression shifting to defensive anger. "I was joking," he said, his tone suggesting that we were all being too sensitive. "Everyone is so serious. It was just a comment." "A joke is supposed to be funny," a voice said from across the table. It was Mitchell, one of the senior developers, a quiet guy who rarely spoke up about anything non-technical. "And it is supposed to be at the right time." That was neither funny nor well-timed. It was dismissive. Brandon's face flushed red. "I do not need a lecture from people I don't even know," he snapped. "You all take this stuff way too seriously. It is a corporate award. Congratulations. Can we move on now?" I wanted to disappear. I wanted to sink through the floor, to vanish from this table, this room, this entire situation. Instead, I sat frozen, staring at my award, listening to my husband argue with my co-workers about whether humiliating me was acceptable behavior. Stephanie was not backing down. "This is not about taking things too seriously," she said, her voice sharp now. "This is about basic respect. Natalie has talked about this project for months. She has put her heart into it. And instead of being proud of her, instead of celebrating with her, you belittle her work in front of everyone." Brandon stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I need some air," he announced, not looking at me. "This is exactly why I did not want to come to this thing. Just a bunch of people being dramatic about office politics." He walked away from the table, heading toward the exit. I watched him go, feeling every eye at the table on me, waiting to see what I would do. The weight of their sympathy was almost as crushing as Brandon's words had been. "I am so sorry," I whispered, to no one and everyone at once. I do not know why he said that. Stephanie's hand found mine on the table, squeezing gently. "You have nothing to apologize for," she said firmly. "Nothing. Do you hear me? He should be apologizing, not you." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Tears were threatening, and I refused to cry here in front of everyone at what should have been one of the proudest moments of my career. I excused myself, mumbling something about the restroom, and made my way across the ballroom as quickly as dignity would allow. The women's restroom was blessedly empty. I locked myself in a stall and finally let the tears come, silent and hot, streaming down my face as I pressed my hand against my mouth to keep any sounds from escaping. This was supposed to be my night, my moment, recognition for work I had poured myself into, validation that what I did mattered, that I was good at it, that I contributed something meaningful. And Brandon had reduced it to data entry. Nothing special. I do not know how long I stayed in that stall, but eventually the tears stopped. I emerged, looked at myself in the mirror, and was grateful that I had used waterproof mascara. My eyes were red, but not ruined. I splashed cold water on my face, took several deep breaths, and tried to compose myself. When I returned to the ballroom, I found Patricia waiting near the entrance, her expression concerned. "There you are," she said softly. "Are you okay? I saw your husband leave. Is everything all right?" I considered lying, saying everything was fine, that he had just needed some air. But Patricia had always been direct and honest with me, and she deserved the same in return. "Not really," I admitted. He did not react well to the award. Patricia's jaw tightened, and I saw a flash of anger cross her face. "What you do here is exceptional work, Natalie," she said firmly. "I need you to understand that. The insights you provided are going to directly impact our bottom line. The product team is already implementing your recommendations. You have probably saved us from losing thousands of users. That is not nothing. That is remarkable." I nodded, feeling the tears threaten again. "Thank you," I managed. "That means a lot." She studied me for a moment, and I could see her weighing her words. "I am going to say something, and I want you to really hear it," she said. "I have been in this industry for 25 years. I have seen a lot of talented people, especially talented women, diminish their own accomplishments because someone in their personal life made them feel like their work did not matter. Do not let anyone, and I mean anyone, make you feel like what you do is not important. Your work matters. You matter." I felt something crack inside me at her words, some wall I had been building for months or maybe years, holding back the truth I had not wanted to face. Brandon had been diminishing my work for so long that I had started to believe him. I had started to think that maybe my job really was not that impressive, not that important, not worth being proud of. I thanked Patricia and returned to my table. Brandon had not come back. Stephanie and the others greeted me with careful kindness, not pushing, just being present. We ate dessert, a chocolate torte that I barely tasted. The party continued around us, people dancing now, the energy in the room joyful and celebratory. My phone buzzed. A text from Brandon. "I am in the car. Ready when you are. Not are you okay. Not I am sorry. Just ready when you are," like I was keeping him waiting from something he actually wanted to do. I looked at Stephanie. "I think I need to go," I said quietly. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Text me later if you need to talk," she said. "Any time. I mean it." I gathered my things, including my award, and said my goodbyes. People congratulated me again, told me the recognition was well-deserved, expressed genuine happiness for my success. I tried to absorb their kindness, to let it counter the poison of Brandon's words. The walk to the parking garage felt endless. The night air was cold and damp, carrying the promise of more rain. I found Brandon in the car, engine running, staring at his phone. I got in silently, placing my award carefully on the back seat. We pulled out of the garage and onto the street before he spoke. "Well, that was a waste of time," he said, his tone casual, like he had not just humiliated me in front of my entire company. Something inside me snapped. "A waste of time," I repeated, my voice eerily calm. I just received a major company award, recognition for months of work, and it was a waste of time. Brandon sighed, that same theatrical sigh from the morning. "Do not be dramatic," he said. "It is a nice gesture from your company. Congratulations. But let's not pretend it is a big deal. You analyze data. That is your job. They gave you a fancy glass trophy for doing your job." I stared at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. When had this happened? When had the man I married, the man who used to ask me about my day and actually listen to the answers, become this person who could not muster basic pride in my accomplishments? "You called it data entry," I said, my voice shaking now. "In front of everyone. You said my job was nothing special." Brandon's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I was frustrated," he said. "You know, I did not want to go to that party. And then we had to sit there for hours, listening to people drone on about projects and metrics and all this corporate nonsense. I just said what everyone there was probably thinking." "No," I said, something hard forming in my chest. "You said what you think. You have made it clear for months now that you do not respect what I do, that you think your work is more important, more impressive, more valuable than mine. That is not fair, he shot back. I work hard too. I have real pressure, real targets I have to hit. My job actually affects the bottom line. So does mine, I said, my voice rising. That is literally what the award was for. My analysis is projected to improve retention and reduce churn significantly. That directly impacts revenue. But you could not even be bothered to listen to Patricia explain that because you were too busy being resentful that I was getting attention. Brandon was silent for a moment, his jaw working. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You want to know the truth? Fine. I am tired of pretending that sitting at a desk staring at spreadsheets all day is some impressive career. I am out there in the field, meeting people, closing deals, making things happen. You are in a cubicle, pushing numbers around. They are not the same. I felt like I had been slapped. We drove the rest of the way home in silence. But it was different than the morning's silence. This was the silence of something breaking, of years of small resentments and dismissals finally crystallizing into something I could no longer ignore. When we got home, Brandon went straight to the bedroom. I heard him getting ready for bed, heard the bathroom sink running, heard him settle into bed like this was just another Friday night. I sat on the couch in our living room, still in my dress, my award on the coffee table in front of me, catching the light from the street outside our window. My phone buzzed. A text from Stephanie. Hey, just checking in. Tonight was rough. You okay? I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Honestly, no, but I will be. Her response came quickly. You deserve so much better than how he treated you tonight. Just want you to know that. I set my phone down and looked around our apartment. We had lived here for 2 years. My things were here, my books and photos, and the small pieces of myself I had scattered throughout this space, but had stopped feeling like home months ago, maybe longer. I thought about tomorrow. Brandon had his golf game, his tea time with clients. He would get up early, make his coffee, leave without asking how I was doing or acknowledging what had happened. And I would be here, alone with my award and the echoing silence of a marriage that somewhere along the way had become a hollow shell. But tonight, sitting in that dim living room with the city lights filtering through the windows, I made a decision. I did not know yet what it would look like or how long it would take, but I knew with absolute certainty that I could not keep living like this. I could not keep allowing someone who claimed to love me to make me feel small and insignificant. My work mattered. I mattered, and it was time I started believing that again. I picked up my award, feeling its weight in my hands, solid and real. Tomorrow I would put it on my desk at work, where I could see it every day, where I could remember that my colleagues saw my value even if my husband did not, where I could start rebuilding the confidence that Brandon had been slowly eroding for years. But tonight, I just held it, letting myself feel proud despite everything. I had earned this. I had done exceptional work, and no one, not even the man sleeping in the next room, could take that away from me. The rain started again, tapping against the windows like nature's applause. I sat there listening to it, my dress rumpled and my makeup faded, holding my award and feeling the first stirrings of something I had not felt in a long time. Not happiness, not yet, but possibility. The possibility that maybe I deserved more than I had been accepting. The possibility that my life could be different, better. It was a beginning, a painful, uncomfortable, necessary beginning. Saturday morning arrived with the gray, muted light that Seattle does so well in November. I woke on the couch, still wearing my dress from the night before, my neck stiff from the awkward angle I had slept in. The apartment was silent except for the distant hum of traffic outside. I checked my phone. It was just after 7, and there was a text from Brandon sent at 6:15. Heading out for golf. Be back this afternoon. No good morning. No mention of last night. Just a factual statement about his whereabouts. I stood slowly, my body protesting, and made my way to the bedroom. The bed was made on his side, a habit from his military father that Brandon had never shaken. My side remained rumpled from yesterday morning. I looked at this bed, this room, this space we theoretically shared, and felt like a stranger in my own home. I showered, letting the hot water wash away the physical residue of the night before. My dress went into the dry cleaning pile. I put on jeans and a sweater, comfortable clothes that felt like armor against whatever this day would bring. My award sat on the bathroom counter where I had placed it while I showered, and I found myself touching it periodically, reassuring myself it was real. The coffee maker gurgled and hissed as I made myself breakfast. I sat at our small kitchen table with toast and eggs I barely tasted, looking out at the city waking up below our 8th-floor window. Runners braved the damp streets, their breath visible in the cold air. A dog walker herded a pack of enthusiastic dogs through the park across the street. Life continued, normal and unchanged, while inside my chest, everything felt like it was shifting. My phone rang. My mother. I almost did not answer, but guilt and habit made me pick up. Natalie, sweetheart. Her voice came through warm and familiar. How are you? We have not talked in a few weeks, and I was thinking about you this morning. My mother lived in Portland, about 3 hours south. She was a retired teacher, a woman who had raised 3 kids, mostly on her own after my father left when I was 12. She was strong, practical, and had an uncanny ability to sense when something was wrong. I am okay, I said, the lie automatic. Just a quiet Saturday morning. There was a pause, the kind of pause that mothers use when they know their children are not telling the truth. Just okay, she asked gently. That does not sound like you're great. And somehow, sitting alone in my kitchen with weak morning light filtering through the windows, I found myself telling her everything. The award, Brandon's comment, the humiliation at the table, the silent drive home, the conversation in the car that had revealed truths I had been avoiding for too long. She listened without interrupting, a skill she had perfected over decades of teaching and parenting. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. Natalie, she finally said, her voice careful but firm, how long has he been treating your work this way? I thought about it, really thought about it. A while, I admitted. It started small. Little comments here and there about how I spent too much time on projects, or how he did not understand why I got so invested in work stuff. Then it got more frequent, more pointed. I guess I just got used to it. You should not have to get used to your partner diminishing you, she said quietly. That is not what marriage is supposed to be. I know, I whispered, tears threatening again. I know that in my head. But it happened so gradually that I did not see it becoming this big thing. And he is not always like this. Sometimes he is great. Sometimes he is the man I married. Sometimes, my mother said gently, is not enough for a lifetime. Her words hung in the air between us. I heard the truth in them, felt it settle into my bones like cold water. What do I do? I asked, feeling helpless and young despite being 33 years old. What do you want to do? She countered. Not what you think you should do. Not what would be easiest. Not what would make the least waves. What do you actually want? I sat with that question, letting it really sink in. What did I want? I wanted to feel valued in my own home. I wanted a partner who celebrated my successes instead of resenting them. I wanted to stop feeling like I had to make myself smaller so that Brandon could feel bigger. I wanted to matter. I want to feel like I matter, I said aloud. Then that is where you start, my mother said. Listen, I am not going to tell you to leave your husband or stay with your husband. That is your decision, and I will support you either way. But I will tell you this. You need to have a real conversation with him. Not a fight, not an argument, but a real, honest conversation about where your marriage is and where it is going. And you need to be prepared for whatever answers come from that conversation. We talked for another hour. She told me stories about her own marriage, about the moment she realized my father's drinking and anger were not things she could fix or tolerate anymore. She reminded me of my strengths, of the girl who had gotten a full scholarship to university, who had graduated with honors, who had built a career she could be proud of despite no one in our family having any background in tech. She told me she was proud of me, that my award was a big deal, that my work mattered. By the time we hung up, I felt steadier. Not fixed, not healed, but steadier. I had direction, even if I did not yet know exactly where that direction would lead. I spent the rest of the morning cleaning the apartment, a mindless activity that gave my hand something to do, while my mind worked through what I wanted to say to Brandon. I rehearsed conversations in my head, trying different approaches, different tones. Confrontational, gentle, matter-of-fact, emotional. Nothing felt quite right. Around 2 in the afternoon, I heard his key in the lock. He came in flushed from the cold, his golf bag slung over his shoulder, looking relaxed and happy. The game must have gone well. He set his clubs down by the door and headed to the kitchen, barely acknowledging me sitting on the couch. "Good game?" I asked, my voice neutral. "Great game," he said, pulling a beer from the fridge. "Shot an 86, which is my best round in months. Plus, I think I really connected with the client from Mercy Medical. Pretty sure he is going to sign a major contract next week." "That is great," I said, meaning it. I had never resented his success, had always been genuinely happy for his wins. I just wanted the same in return. He came into the living room, beer in hand, and flopped into the chair across from me. Finally noticed my expression. "What?" he asked, defensive already. "We need to talk," I said simply. Those 4 words, the ones everyone dreads in a relationship. I saw his body language shift immediately, closing off, preparing for conflict. "About last night?" he said. "Look, I already told you I was frustrated. It came out wrong. Can we just move past it?" "No," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "We cannot just move past it, because it is not just about last night. It is about how you have been treating me and my work for months, maybe years." Brandon set his beer down hard on the coffee table. "Here we go," he muttered. "I knew you were going to blow this out of proportion." I felt anger flare in my chest, hot and sharp. "How is it out of proportion?" I asked, my voice rising slightly. "You humiliated me in front of my colleagues. You called my work that my company valued enough to give me an award for, nothing special. You reduced months of effort to data entry. How is being hurt by that blowing things out of proportion?" "Because you are acting like I committed some terrible crime," he shot back. "I made one comment. One. And now you are treating me like I am this horrible person who does not support you." "It was not one comment," I said, forcing myself to stay calm. "It is the comment at dinner 2 months ago when I told you I was excited about a breakthrough in my analysis, and you changed the subject within 30 seconds. It is every time I try to talk about my work and you look bored or check your phone. It is the way you talk about your job with pride and passion, but you describe mine as just staring at spreadsheets. It is a pattern, Brandon, a pattern of making me feel like what I do does not matter." He was quiet for a moment, his jaw tight. "Maybe it does not matter as much as you think it does," he finally said, his voice low. The words hit me like a physical blow. There it was. The truth he had been dancing around for months, maybe years, finally said out loud. "What does that mean?" I asked, needing him to explain, to own what he had just said. "It means that you take this stuff so seriously," he said, gesturing vaguely. "You act like your job is this incredibly important thing, like you are changing the world or something. But at the end of the day, you are analyzing user data for a software company. It is fine. It is a decent job, but it is not worth the way you obsess over it." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "And your job is?" I asked quietly. "My job is different," he said, leaning forward. "I have quotas I have to hit. Real consequences if I fail. I am bringing in millions of dollars in business. I am building relationships with clients, managing a whole region, leading a team. There are stakes. There are stakes in my work too," I said, fighting to keep my voice even. "User retention, revenue growth, product development. Those are real things with real impact. Just because my work is not as visible as yours does not mean it is less important. Brandon shook his head. You do not get it, he said. In my world, people know who the winners are. There is a leaderboard. There are rankings. Success is measurable and public. Your job is just different. More behind the scenes. Less important in the grand scheme of things. Less important, I repeated. That is what you really think. That my work is less important than yours. He hesitated, and I could see him realizing he had gone too far, said too much. I did not mean it like that, he backpedaled. I just meant that there are different types of jobs. No, I said, standing up. You meant exactly what you said. You think what you do is more valuable than what I do. You think my accomplishments are not worth celebrating because they do not fit your definition of success. Natalie, come on, he said, his tone shifting to placating. You are being too sensitive about this. Do not, I said sharply, pointing at him. Do not tell me I am being too sensitive. You do not get to insult me and then tell me that my reaction to being insulted is the problem. He stood too, his frustration boiling over. What do you want from me? He demanded. You want me to pretend that your little corporate award is some huge deal? You want me to act like you just won a Nobel Prize or something? It is a participation trophy, Natalie. They probably give them out every year to make people feel special. My hands are shaking now, but not from fear or sadness. From rage. From years of swallowed disappointments and suppressed hurts finally finding their voice. Get out, I said quietly. What? He looked genuinely shocked. Get out, I repeated louder this time. Go to a hotel, go to a friend's place, I do not care. But I need you out of this apartment right now. You are kicking me out? Over this? He asked, incredulous. Over the fact that you just told me my career does not matter, I said, my voice shaking. Over the fact that you cannot muster basic respect for my accomplishments. Over the fact that you think a participation trophy is an accurate description of an award I earned through months of hard work. Yes, Brandon, I am asking you to leave. Right now. He stared at me for a long moment, and I watched emotions flicker across his face. Anger, disbelief, something that might have been fear. Then his expression hardened. Fine, he said coldly. I will go. But do not expect me to come crawling back, apologizing for telling you the truth. He grabbed his keys, his wallet, his coat. Did not pack a bag. Did not ask how long he should stay away. Just headed for the door. He paused with his hand on the handle. Turned back like he might say something else. Then shook his head and left. The door closed behind him with a quiet click that felt impossibly loud in the sudden silence. I stood in the middle of our living room, breathing hard, adrenaline coursing through me. My phone was in my hand before I consciously decided to pick it up. I texted Stephanie. I just asked Brandon to leave. Can I call you? Her response was immediate. Yes, calling you now. When her name lit up my screen, I answered, and the whole story came pouring out. She listened, made appropriate sounds of outrage and support, let me cry when the tears finally came. We talked for over an hour, and by the end I felt wrung out but clearer. You did the right thing, she said firmly. You set a boundary. You stood up for yourself. That took real courage. It does not feel courageous, I admitted. It feels terrifying. Those things are not mutually exclusive, she pointed out. Listen, do you want company tonight? Claire and I can come over, bring wine and terrible movies, and just be there. The offer was tempting, but I shook my head even though she could not see me. I think I need to sit with this, I said. Process it on my own for a bit. But thank you. Really. We hung up with promises to check in tomorrow. I looked around the apartment, seeing it differently now. It was just space. Walls and floors and furniture. Home was supposed to be people. But somewhere along the way, the person I shared this space with had stopped feeling like home. I ordered dinner from a Thai place down the street, something I never did because Brandon did not like Thai food. I ate it on the couch, watching a movie I had wanted to see for months, but never suggested because it was not his type of film. Small acts of reclaiming my own preferences, my own space. That night, I slept in our bed in the middle instead of on my designated side. It felt strange and liberating at the same time. My award sat on the nightstand where I could see it, a reminder that I was good at what I did, that other people saw my value even if Brandon did not. Sunday passed in a strange bubble of quiet. Brandon did not call or text. Neither did I. I went to the grocery store, bought only things I liked, meal prepped for the week ahead. I called my mother and told her what had happened. She did not say I told you so. She just listened and told me she loved me and that I was welcome to come home to Portland any time I needed to. Stephanie texted throughout the day, checking in without being pushy. A few other coworkers reached out too, people who had been at the party, who had witnessed what happened, offering support in various ways. Their kindness felt like a lifeline. Monday morning arrived too quickly and not quickly enough. I got ready for work with extra care, choosing an outfit that made me feel professional and confident. I packed my award carefully in my bag, planning to put it on my desk as I had promised myself I would. The commute felt different. I was not driving toward just another workday. I was driving toward the first day of whatever came next, and I was doing it alone. That thought should have been terrifying, but instead it felt almost peaceful. When I got to my desk, Stephanie was already there. She looked up as I approached, her expression concerned and warm. "Hey," she said softly. "How are you doing?" "I am okay," I said and realized I meant it. Not great, not healed, but okay. I pulled my award from my bag and placed it carefully on my desk, adjusting it so it caught the light. "There," I said. "Now it is official." Stephanie smiled, and I saw her eyes getting misty. "I am proud of you," she said. "Not just for the award, for everything." Patricia appeared at my desk around 10, asking if I had a few minutes. We went to her office, and she closed the door behind us. "I heard some things about Friday night," she said without preamble. "Not gossip, just concern from people who care about you. Are you all right?" I appreciated her directness. I gave her an honest answer. "I am working on it," I said. "My husband and I are having some serious issues, but I am handling it." She nodded, accepting this. "If you need any flexibility this week, any accommodations, just let me know," she said. "And I want you to know that we value you here. Your work, your insights, your presence on this team. I hope you know that." "I do now," I said, meaning it. "Thank you for the award, for recognizing what I do. It meant more to me than you probably realize." We talked for a while longer about upcoming projects, about ideas I had for expanding my analysis to other product lines, about potential growth opportunities within the company. It was the kind of conversation I never had with Brandon anymore, where someone was genuinely interested in my professional thoughts and ambitions. The week passed in a strange rhythm. Work felt like solid ground, a place where I knew my value and my purpose. Home felt uncertain, like living in a waiting room for whatever came next. Brandon and I exchanged brief, formal texts about logistics. He stayed at a hotel. Neither of us mentioned coming home or when we might talk again. On Wednesday, Patricia called me into her office again. This time, her expression was different. Excited, almost conspiratorial. "I have a proposal for you," she said. "We are opening a new position, senior data strategist. It would be a significant step up, more responsibility, more visibility, better compensation. You would be leading a team, working directly with product leadership, essentially translating data insights into strategic direction for the entire company. I want you to apply for it. Actually, I want you to take it if you are interested." I felt my heart rate pick up. This was the kind of opportunity one had been working toward for years. "When would it start?" I asked. "January," she said. "Right after the holidays. I know it is fast, but I think you are ready. More than ready. Your work on the user engagement project proved that you can think strategically, that you can take complex data and turn it into actionable insights that impact real business outcomes. That is exactly what this role requires." "I would love to," I heard myself say. "Yes, absolutely yes." Patricia's smile was genuine and warm. Excellent, she said. There will be paperwork and formalities, but consider this your official offer. Welcome to the leadership team, Natalie. I walked back to my desk, feeling like I was floating. This was it. The validation, the growth, the next step in my career I had been working toward. And it was happening now when I needed it most. I told Stephanie first. She squealed loud enough that people from other departments looked over, and she pulled me into a tight hug. This is amazing, she said. You are going to be incredible at this. I just know it. That evening, I texted Brandon. We need to talk. Can you come by this weekend? His response came an hour later. Saturday afternoon. 2:00. It was not warm, but it was a start. We needed to have real conversations about what came next, whether we were going to try to fix this or accept that maybe we could not. I did not know yet which outcome I wanted, which scared me and freed me at the same time. But for now, I had work I was good at, colleagues who valued me, a promotion that recognized my potential, and the beginning of understanding that my worth was not determined by whether my husband could see it. I was valuable on my own. My work mattered. I mattered, and that I was learning might be enough to build a new life on, whatever that life ended up looking like. Saturday arrived cold and clear, one of those rare November days in Seattle where the sun actually broke through the perpetual gray. I spent the morning preparing for Brandon's arrival the way someone might prepare for a difficult business meeting. I made notes about what I wanted to say, rehearsed key points, tried to anticipate his responses. It felt clinical and sad that my marriage had come to this, but it also felt necessary. At exactly 2:00, I heard his key in the lock. He let himself in, and I noticed he still had his key, still felt entitled to use it without knocking. He looked tired, I thought, shadows under his eyes that had not been there before. His clothes were wrinkled like he had been wearing them too long. We sat across from each other in the living room, the same positions we had been in a week ago when everything had exploded. The silence stretched between us, heavy with all the things we had not said over the years and all the things we had finally said last weekend. So he started, his voice carefully neutral. You wanted to talk. I did, I said, surprised by how calm I felt. I have been thinking a lot this week. About us, about our marriage, about what I want and need from a partner. He shifted in his seat, uncomfortable. Natalie, look, I know I was harsh last week. Maybe I said some things I should not have said. But do not you think kicking me out was an overreaction? No, I said simply. I do not think it was an overreaction at all. He looked surprised, like he had expected me to immediately back down, to apologize for setting a boundary. That was the pattern, I realized. I would express hurt, he would minimize it, I would apologize for being too sensitive, and we would move on without anything actually changing. Not this time. Brandon, I continued, keeping my voice steady, what you said last week was not just harsh. It was revealing. You told me in multiple ways that you do not respect my work, that you think what I do is less important than what you do, that my accomplishments are not worth celebrating. Those are not things you just say in a moment of frustration. Those are beliefs you hold. That is not fair, he protested. I was frustrated because I did not want to be at that party in the first place. You know I hate those corporate events. That is part of the problem, I said. You see my work events as an inconvenience to you rather than something important to me. When you have a work dinner or a client event, I show up. I make conversation. I support you. I have never made you feel like your professional life is a burden to me. He was quiet for a moment. It is different, he finally said. Why? I asked. Why is it different? Because my job requires that kind of networking, he said. It is part of the territory. Your job is more self-contained. My job requires relationships, too, I countered. Building trust with colleagues, collaborating across departments, being present and engaged with my team. Those things matter. And having my partner there, supporting me, that matters too. Or at least it should. Brandon rubbed his face with both hands. What do you want me to say, Natalie? That I am sorry I do not find data analysis as exciting as you do? That I am sorry I do not want to spend my Friday nights at parties where I do not know anyone and everyone is talking about metrics I do not understand. I want you to say that you understand why your behavior was hurtful, I said. I want you to say that you see value in what I do, even if you do not fully understand it. I want you to want to celebrate my successes instead of diminishing them because they make you uncomfortable. They do not make me uncomfortable, he said defensively. I think they do, I said quietly. I think my success makes you uncomfortable because it challenges this idea you have that your career is more important, more impressive, more worthy of attention and respect. And instead of dealing with that discomfort, you have spent months or years making me feel small so you can feel bigger. The words hung in the air between us. I watched his face, saw anger flash across it, then something else. Something that might have been recognition or shame. That is not what I have been doing, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it not? I asked. When was the last time you asked me about a project I was working on and actually listened to the answer? When was the last time you showed genuine interest in my work? He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it, could not answer because we both knew the truth. I got a promotion this week, I said, watching his reaction carefully. Senior data strategist. It is a leadership position. More responsibility, better pay, direct impact on company strategy. I saw multiple emotions cross his face. Surprise first, then something that looked like he was trying to be happy, then something darker. Resentment, maybe. Or fear. Congratulations, he said, the word flat and empty. Thank you, I replied. I wanted to tell you in person because it is a big deal for me. It is recognition that my work has value, that I have skills and insights that can help guide a company's direction. It is everything I have been working toward. That is great, Natalie, he said, and I could hear him forcing enthusiasm he did not feel. Really? I am happy for you. But you are not, I said gently. I can see it on your face. My success does not make you happy. It makes you uncomfortable. And that, Brandon, is a fundamental problem in our marriage. He stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. What do you want from me? He demanded. You want me to pretend that your job is more important than it is? You want me to fake excitement about data and metrics and user attention? No, I said, standing too. I want you to respect that it is important to me. I want you to understand that something does not have to be important to you for it to be valuable. I want you to be capable of celebrating my wins without feeling like they somehow diminish yours. He turned to face me, and I saw something in his expression I had not seen before. Vulnerability, maybe. Or exhaustion. I do not know how to do that, he admitted quietly. When you succeed, when you get recognition, it makes me feel like I am not enough, like I am not the successful one anymore. There it was. The truth underneath all the dismissiveness and resentment. Brandon's identity was wrapped up in being the successful partner, the high earner, the impressive one. My success threatened that identity, and instead of dealing with his own insecurity, he had chosen to tear me down. That is something you need to work on, I said, not unkindly. Those are your issues, your insecurities, and I have compassion for that. But I cannot make myself smaller to manage your feelings. I will not do that anymore. So what are you saying? He asked. You want a divorce? The question hung in the air. I had not let myself think that word yet, had not wanted to go there. But hearing it said out loud did not feel as terrifying as I thought it would. I am saying that I do not know if this marriage can work if you cannot be genuinely happy for my success, I said carefully. I am saying that I need a partner who sees me as an equal, who values what I bring to the relationship, who does not need me to fail so they can feel successful. I do not need you to fail, he said, but it sounded defensive. Maybe not consciously, I agreed, but your behavior suggests otherwise. And until you can honestly look at that, until you can work on why my accomplishments threaten you instead of please you, I do not see how we move forward. He was quiet for a long time, staring out the window at the city below. When he finally spoke, his voice was tired. I do not know if I can be what you need, he said. I do not know if I can change the way I see things. It was the most honest thing he had said in months, maybe years. Then maybe we need to accept that, I said softly. Maybe we need to acknowledge that we have grown into people who cannot make each other happy anymore. He nodded slowly, and I saw his shoulders slump. Is this really it? He asked. Are we really giving up? I do not see it as giving up, I said. I see it as being honest. We got married when we were different people. We had different priorities, different goals. And maybe that is okay. Maybe it is okay to acknowledge that we have changed, and that those changes mean we are not right for each other anymore. He turned to look at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. I did love you, he said. I do love you. I just do not know if I know how to love you the way you need to be loved. It was the kindest, saddest thing he could have said. I loved you too, I replied, using the past tense deliberately. But love is not enough if it is not backed up by respect and support and genuine partnership. And we do not have that anymore. Maybe we never really did. We talked for another hour, working through logistics with surprising calm. The apartment was in my name, a fact that suddenly mattered. He would come by next weekend to get his things. We would split our minimal shared assets. There were no kids, no shared property beyond this apartment, and some furniture. In some ways, that made it easier. In other ways, it made it sadder. We had been married for 3 years and had so little to show for it, so little that was truly ours together. When he left, we hugged briefly at the door. It was not romantic or passionate. It was the hug of two people who had tried and failed, who were choosing kindness over cruelty in the ending even if they could not find it in the middle. I closed the door behind him and stood in the silence of the apartment. It felt different now. Not empty, not sad. Just quiet. Peaceful almost. I called my mother, told her everything. She listened, offered comfort and wisdom, reminded me that endings were also beginnings. I called Stephanie next. She and Claire came over that evening with wine and pizza and just sat with me. We did not analyze everything or try to fix anything. They were just present, offering companionship in the strange liminal space between one life ending and another beginning. The next week at work, I threw myself into my new role. There was so much to learn, so many new responsibilities to absorb. I worked with the leadership team, presented findings to the executive board, started building my own team of analysts who would report to me. It was challenging and exciting and exactly what I needed. I moved my desk to a new location that came with the promotion, a real office with a door and a window with an even better view of the city. My award came with me, taking pride of place on the bookshelf where I could see it every day, a reminder of what I was capable of the value I brought, of the respect I deserved. Thanksgiving came. I went to Portland to spend it with my mother and my siblings. My sister made too much food as usual. My brother told terrible jokes. My teenage niece showed me TikTok videos I did not understand. It was normal and comforting and reminded me that I had people who loved me outside of my marriage. December arrived with its usual chaos. Holiday parties I actually wanted to attend now that I was not dreading Brandon's resentful presence. Shopping for gifts with Stephanie, who had become not just a coworker but a genuine friend. Late nights at the office preparing for the new year and all the projects we had planned. Brandon came by as scheduled to get his things. It was surprisingly civil. We were polite, even kind to each other. The anger had burned out, leaving behind something like mutual understanding. We had both been trying to force something that did not fit anymore. Letting go was not failure. It was honesty. On Christmas Eve, I sat in my apartment alone for the first time in years. I had declined invitations from friends and family, needing this moment of solitude. My tree was small but real, filling the space with the smell of pine. Lights twinkled in the window. The city spread out below me, a million individual lives, each with their own joys and struggles and quiet moments of reflection. I thought about the past year, about the woman I had been 12 months ago, uncertain, diminished, trying so hard to make herself small enough to fit into a space that was never going to hold her. And I thought about the woman I was now, promoted, recognized, standing on her own 2 feet with a clarity she had not had before. It had been painful, this transformation. Breaking things apart always is. But sitting there in the soft glow of Christmas lights, I felt something I had not felt in years. Not happiness, exactly, not yet, but contentment, peace, the sense that I was finally on the right path, even if I did not know exactly where it led. My phone buzzed. A text from Stephanie. Merry Christmas Eve. Claire and I are thinking about you. Brunch tomorrow if you want company. I smiled, typing back. Would love that. Thank you for being such a good friend through all of this. Her response was immediate. That is what friends do. See you tomorrow. Wear something cozy. I set my phone down and looked around my apartment. It was fully mine now, decorated exactly how I wanted it, organized around my preferences and my schedule and my life. It was not perfect. There were still boxes I had not unpacked, pictures I needed to hang, spaces that felt empty. But it was mine. The new year arrived with typical Seattle rain and unexpected optimism. I spent it with Stephanie and Claire and a group of their friends who welcomed me warmly into their circle. At midnight, we toasted to new beginnings, to second chances, to the courage it takes to choose yourself even when it is scary. January brought the full launch of my new role. I led my first major strategy meeting, presenting a comprehensive analysis that the executive team immediately approved for implementation. Patricia pulled me aside afterward. You are exactly where you belong, she said. I knew you had this in you. Work became more than just a job. It became a place where I could see my impact, where my contributions were recognized and valued, where I was building something meaningful. I mentored junior analysts, collaborated with product teams, translated complex data into strategic direction that actually changed how the company operated. My team respected me. My colleagues sought my input. Leadership included me in high-level conversations about the company's direction. It was everything I had worked for, and it was happening because I had finally stopped accepting less than I deserved. On a rainy Tuesday in late January, almost 3 months after the office party that had changed everything, I sat in my office reviewing quarterly results. My analysis had led to product changes that had increased user retention by 15%, exceeding even our optimistic projections. Revenue was up. Customer satisfaction was up. The company was growing in smart, sustainable ways, and I had played a significant role in that growth. Patricia knocked on my open door. Got a minute? She asked. Always, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. She sat down with a smile that told me she had good news. The board meeting this morning went well, she said. Very well. They were particularly impressed with the Q4 results and the strategic direction we have been implementing. And they wanted me to make sure you know that your work has not gone unnoticed. She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter detailing a significant bonus and a salary increase that took my breath away. You earned this, Patricia said firmly. Every penny of it. You have proven your value to this company over and over again. We want to make sure you know how much we appreciate you. I felt tears prick my eyes, but they were happy tears this time. Thank you, I said, meaning it deeply. This means everything to me. After Patricia left, I sat alone in my office, holding that letter and looking at my award on the shelf. I thought about the woman who had stood on that stage 3 months ago, humiliated by her husband's public dismissal, not knowing if her work really mattered. I thought about everything that had happened since then, the confrontation that had ended my marriage, the difficult conversations and painful realizations, the promotion that had pushed me into leadership, the slow, steady work of rebuilding my sense of self-worth. It had not been easy. There were still hard days, moments of doubt, nights when I questioned every decision I had made. But sitting there, tangible proof of my value in my hands, I knew with absolute certainty that I had made the right choice. Choosing myself had been the hardest and best decision of my life. That evening, I met Stephanie and Claire for dinner at a new restaurant downtown. We celebrated my bonus, my growth, my journey. They had been there through all of it, witnessing my transformation with supportive presence and genuine care. "So," Stephanie said over dessert, her eyes twinkling, "I have been meaning to ask, are you open to being set up? Because Claire has a colleague who I think you would really hit it off with." I laughed, surprised by how the suggestion did not terrify me. "Maybe," I said. "Not right now. I am still figuring out who I am outside of being married. But maybe in a few months. Ask me again in the spring." "Fair enough," Claire said, raising her glass. "To Natalie, who is crushing it at work, who had the courage to demand better for herself, and who is going to be absolutely fine." We clinked glasses, and I felt the truth of her words settle into my bones. I was going to be absolutely fine. Better than fine. I was going to be exactly who I was meant to be, without apology and without making myself smaller for anyone. The rain continued outside, but inside the restaurant was warm and bright. I was surrounded by people who valued me, celebrating a career I had built through hard work and dedication, living a life that finally felt authentically mine. I thought about the office party that had been the catalyst for all of this change, about Brandon's cruel dismissal and the public humiliation that had forced me to see truths I had been avoiding, about the award that had reminded me of my worth exactly when I needed that reminder most. It had been one of the worst and best nights of my life. Worst because it had exposed the cracks in my marriage that could no longer be ignored. Best because it had given me the push I needed to stop accepting less than I deserved. I looked at my reflection in the restaurant window, seeing not the uncertain woman from 3 months ago, but someone new. Someone stronger, clearer, more certain of her value and her path. Someone who had learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from people and situations that make you feel small. My job was not nothing special. It was exceptional work that made a real difference. And I was not nothing special either. I was talented, driven, capable of leading and strategizing and creating real value. I deserved to be with people who saw that, who celebrated it, who supported my growth instead of resenting it. The journey from that humiliating moment at the office party to this quiet dinner celebration had been painful and transformative, but I would not change it. Every difficult conversation, every tear shed, every moment of doubt had been necessary to get me here, to this place of clarity and self-respect and genuine optimism about my future. I raised my glass one more time, a private toast to myself, to new beginnings, to hard-earned wisdom, to the courage to choose yourself even when it is terrifying, to believing that your work matters, that you matter, and that you deserve people in your life who see that truth as clearly as you do. Spring arrived early that year, bringing with it cherry blossoms and longer days and a sense of renewal that felt almost too perfectly timed. I had been living alone for 5 months now, and the apartment had fully transformed into my space. New furniture that I had chosen, art on the walls that reflected my taste, a reading corner by the window where I spent weekend mornings with coffee and books. Every corner of this place was intentional now, chosen mine. Work continued to challenge and fulfill me. My team had grown to 5 analysts, each one talented and eager to learn. I found that I loved mentoring, loved watching people develop their skills and confidence, loved creating an environment where everyone felt valued and heard. The kind of environment I had needed and found at Cascade, the kind I wanted to pay forward. We launched a new initiative in March, a comprehensive data platform that would give every department access to real-time analytics. It was ambitious, complex, and exactly the kind of strategic project I had dreamed of leading. The kickoff meeting went brilliantly, with stakeholders from across the company engaged and excited about the possibilities. After the meeting, Patricia caught up with me in the hallway. "That was masterful," she said. "The way you presented the technical details while keeping everyone focused on the business value. You have really come into your own in this role." "I have had good teachers," I said, meaning it. "You took a chance on me when I needed it most. I will always be grateful for that." She smiled, but her expression turned more serious. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. "You seem different lately. Lighter somehow. Happier. Is everything okay? Everything is better than okay, I told her honestly. I am divorced now. Papers finalized last month. And I am realizing that I am actually relieved. Happier on my own than I was trying to make something work that was fundamentally broken. Good for you, Patricia said firmly. I went through something similar in my 30s. Left a marriage that was slowly suffocating me. Best decision I ever made. It is hard to see it while you are in it. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself and the other person is to admit when something is not working. We talked for a while longer about her journey, about the challenges of rebuilding after divorce, about the unexpected joys of discovering who you are outside of a relationship. It was comforting to know that someone I respected had walked a similar path and come out stronger on the other side. That afternoon, Stephanie stopped by my office with an interesting proposition. So, remember how I mentioned Claire's colleague a few months ago? She asked, trying to sound casual and failing completely. I laughed. I said maybe in spring. It is spring now, so I suppose you are within your rights to ask again. Her face lit up. So is that a yes? Because he is really great, Natalie. Thoughtful, funny, has his life together, works in marine biology research, which is completely different from tech, so no competing work dynamics. And he has been single for a year, taking time to work on himself after his last relationship. That actually sounds perfect, I admitted. Okay, yes, you can give him my number. Stephanie squealed and pulled me into a hug. I am so excited about this. No pressure, just coffee or drinks, something low-key. His name is Owen, by the way. Owen. It was a nice name. Normal. Not loaded with history and hurt, like Brandon was now. He texted me that evening. Hi, Natalie. I am Owen. Stephanie and Claire have been conspiring to set us up, which is either endearing or concerning, depending on your perspective. Would you want to grab coffee sometime this week? No pressure if you're not feeling it. I appreciated the lightness in his tone, the acknowledgement that this might feel awkward. I wrote back, Hi, Owen. I vote endearing. Coffee sounds great. I am free Thursday evening if that works for you. We made plans to meet at a coffee shop in Fremont, a neighborhood I loved for its quirky energy and artistic vibe. I tried not to overthink it, reminding myself that it was just coffee, just a chance to meet someone new without expectations or pressure. Thursday arrived. I changed clothes 3 times before settling on jeans and a sweater that made me feel comfortable and confident. I got to the coffee shop 5 minutes early and ordered a latte, finding a table by the window where I could watch people pass by on the street outside. Owen arrived exactly on time. I recognized him from the photo Stephanie had shown me, but seeing him in person was different. He was tall, with dark hair starting to gray at the temples and warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He wore jeans and a flannel shirt, looking relaxed and approachable. Natalie? He asked, and I nodded, standing to shake his hand. His grip was firm, but not aggressive, his smile genuine. It is really nice to meet you. Stephanie has told me great things. All true, I am sure, I said with a smile. She has been a good friend to me. We talked for 2 hours. It flowed easily, naturally, without the awkward silences or forced conversation I had worried about. He told me about his work studying orca populations in the Puget Sound, about the challenges of conservation in the face of climate change and pollution, about why he loved what he did even when it was frustrating and heartbreaking. I told him about my work too, about data analysis and strategic planning, about leading a team and building something meaningful. And he listened, really listened, asked thoughtful questions, made connections between what I did and what he did, finding common ground in our shared commitment to work that mattered. We talked about other things too. Books we loved, places we wanted to travel, childhood memories, the weirdness of Seattle weather. He made me laugh with a story about a research trip where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. I found myself relaxing, enjoying the conversation, genuinely interested in this person sitting across from me. When the coffee shop started closing, we realized how much time had passed. This was really nice, Owen said as we stood to leave. Would you want to do it again? Maybe dinner next time? I would like that, I said, meaning it completely. He walked me to my car, hands in his pockets, and we stood in the parking lot for a moment. I am glad Stephanie and Claire set this up, he said. I was nervous, to be honest. First date in a year. But this was easy. Good easy. For me too, I admitted. And for what it is worth, I could not tell you were nervous. He laughed. I'm good at hiding it. Comes from years of presenting research findings to skeptical audiences. We made plans for dinner the following week. He hugged me goodbye, a brief, warm embrace that felt comfortable rather than awkward. I drove home with a smile on my face, not because I was falling in love or because this was some fairy tale beginning, but because it had been genuinely pleasant to spend time with someone who seemed kind and interesting and emotionally available. Over the next few months, Owen and I settled into something that felt healthy and balanced. We saw each other once or twice a week, taking time to get to know each other without rushing into anything serious. He met Stephanie and Claire for a double date that went wonderfully. I met some of his friends from work, including a fellow researcher named Monica, who became someone I genuinely enjoyed spending time with. What struck me most about being with Owen was how different it felt from my marriage with Brandon. Owen celebrated my work wins. When I told him about a successful project or a team achievement, his response was genuine enthusiasm and interest. He asked questions, wanted to understand what I did, expressed pride in my accomplishments without feeling threatened by them. When he had his own successes, his own grants funded or papers published, I felt the same genuine happiness for him. There was no competition, no resentment, no keeping score. We were two people with separate careers and identities who enjoyed sharing our lives with each other. He was not perfect. Nobody is. He worked too much sometimes, got overly focused on problems he was trying to solve. He was terrible at remembering to text back. He had a complicated relationship with his family that he was still working through. But he was self-aware about his flaws. He apologized when he messed up. He communicated openly about what he was feeling and what he needed. He treated me like an equal partner rather than an accessory to his life. In June, 6 months after we started dating, we took a weekend trip to the San Juan Islands. We kayaked among the islands, watched for orcas that Owen could identify by their dorsal fins, ate fresh seafood, and talked for hours about everything and nothing. One evening, sitting on the beach watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange, Owen asked about my marriage. I had told him the basics early on, that I was divorced, that it had ended because we wanted different things, but we had not gone deep into the details. I told him the whole story, the office party, Brandon's public dismissal, the confrontation that followed, the painful realization that my marriage had been slowly eroding my sense of self-worth. I told him about the promotion, about choosing myself, about the hard work of rebuilding. He listened without interrupting, his attention complete. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment, watching the waves lap at the shore. "Thank you for trusting me with that," he finally said. "That must have taken incredible courage to walk away from something familiar, even when it was hurting you." "It was the scariest thing I have ever done," I admitted, "but also the best thing. I like who I am now. I did not like who I was becoming in that marriage." "I like who you are too," Owen said, taking my hand. "And I want you to know that I see your success as something to celebrate, not something to compete with. What you do is impressive. The way you think about problems, the way you lead your team, the impact you have. That is all incredible, and I am genuinely glad I get to witness it." I felt tears prick my eyes, but they were good tears. "Thank you," I whispered. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that." We sat there as the sun disappeared below the horizon, his hand warm in mine, and I felt something settle in my chest. Peace, contentment, the sense that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. By August, a full year after the office party that had changed everything, I found myself taking stock of my life with something approaching amazement. My career was thriving. I had been promoted again, this time to Director of Data Strategy, overseeing multiple teams and playing a key role in company-wide decision-making. The work challenged me daily, and I loved it. My personal life had blossomed in ways I never expected. Owen and I were talking about moving in together, taking the next step in a relationship that felt healthy and balanced and full of mutual respect. Stephanie and Claire had become family, along with the broader circle of friends I had built over the past year. I had reconnected with hobbies I had abandoned during my marriage. I was taking a pottery class on Tuesday evenings, something I had always wanted to try, but Brandon had dismissed as a waste of time. I was running again, training for a half marathon with a group from work. I was reading voraciously, devouring books that challenged and inspired me. Most importantly, I had rebuilt my relationship with myself. I knew my worth now. I knew that my work mattered, that my contributions were valuable, that I deserved respect and support and genuine partnership. I would never again accept less than that. On the anniversary of that fateful office party, Cascade Technologies held another holiday celebration. This time I walked in confident and happy, Owen by my side. My team was thriving, my projects were succeeding, and I felt none of the anxiety that had plagued me a year ago. Patricia found me early in the evening. 1 year ago tonight, you stood on that stage and received an award, she said with a smile. Do you remember? I remember everything about that night, I said honestly. It was the beginning of everything changing. Well, she said, her smile widening, I hope you are ready for history to repeat itself. Because you're getting another award tonight. Director of the Year. For exceptional leadership, strategic vision, and transformative impact on company performance. I felt my jaw drop. Are you serious? Completely serious, she said. The board voted unanimously. Your work this year has been nothing short of remarkable. You have built something special here, Natalie. A team that produces exceptional work, a strategic framework that guides our entire product development process, and a culture of excellence that elevates everyone around you. When my name was called later that evening, I walked to the stage with my head high. Owen was cheering louder than anyone, genuine pride and joy on his face. My team was on their feet, clapping and celebrating. Stephanie was crying again, happy tears for a friend who had come so far. I accepted the award, another beautiful piece of crystal that would sit beside the first one on my shelf. I looked out at the crowd, at all these people who had supported me, believed in me, valued me. A year ago, I started my speech. I stood on the stage feeling humiliated and small. Someone I loved had just publicly dismissed my work, called it nothing special, and I did not know how to respond to that. I did not know if what I did really mattered. The room was completely silent, everyone listening. This year, I continued, I stand here knowing with absolute certainty that my work matters, that what we all do matters. Every analysis, every insight, every recommendation that improves our products and serves our users. It all matters. And I want to thank everyone in this room for reminding me of that, for creating an environment where excellence is recognized and valued, where we lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. I paused, emotions threatening to overwhelm me. This award is not just mine, I said. It belongs to my team, who trusted me to lead them. It belongs to Patricia, who believed in me when I needed it most. It belongs to everyone who showed me that respect and support and genuine partnership are not too much to ask for. They are the bare minimum we all deserve. The applause was thunderous. I made my way back to my table, where Owen pulled me into a tight hug. I am so proud of you, he whispered. You are incredible. I held the award in my hands, feeling its weight, and thought about the journey that had brought me here. From that painful moment of public humiliation to this moment of public celebration. From a marriage that made me feel small to a relationship that made me feel valued. From doubting my worth to knowing it with unshakable certainty. It had been the hardest year of my life. It had also been the best, because I had learned that sometimes the things that break us are the things that ultimately make us stronger. That walking away from what is familiar but harmful takes more courage than staying. That choosing yourself is not selfish but necessary. That your value is not determined by whether someone else can see it, but by whether you can see it yourself. I looked around the room, at my colleagues and friends, at Owen smiling at me with genuine pride, at the life I had built from the rubble of what had fallen apart. This was what happiness looked like. Not perfect, not without challenges, but authentic and hard-earned and deeply satisfying. My job was not just data entry. It was strategic leadership that shaped company direction and improved people's lives. And I was not nothing special. I was exceptional, talented, worthy of respect and celebration and love. It had taken a public humiliation at an office party to force me to see these truths. But now that I saw them, now that I believe them, no one would ever make me doubt them again. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and celebration. We danced, we laughed, we toasted to success and friendship and new beginnings. And when Owen and I left that night, walking hand in hand through the cold December air, I felt complete. Not because I had a successful career, though I did. Not because I had a loving relationship, though I did. But because I had something more fundamental. I had myself, my sense of worth, my understanding of what I deserved, and my willingness to accept nothing less. Everything else, all the good things in my life, had grown from that foundation. And that foundation was unshakable now, built on the hard-won knowledge that I was enough, more than enough, exactly as I was. The city lights twinkled around us as we walked to the car. Seattle had never looked more beautiful. Or maybe I had never been more able to appreciate its beauty, now that I was finally, fully, authentically myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Stephanie. "So proud of you. You deserve everything good that is happening. Love you." I smiled and typed back, "Love you too. Thank you for being there through all of it." Owen squeezed my hand. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Home. My apartment that I had made into a sanctuary. My space that reflected who I was and what I valued. My life that I had built with intention and courage. "Yes," I said, leaning into him as we walked. "I am ready." And I was. Ready for whatever came next. Ready to keep growing and learning and building. Ready to face challenges with the confidence of someone who knew her worth. Ready to accept love from people who genuinely saw and valued me. Ready to keep being the person I had fought so hard to become. The rain started to fall, gentle and familiar, as we drove through the city. I looked out at the streets I knew so well, the neighborhoods I called home, the life I had built here. It was not the life I had imagined when I got married years ago. It was better, because it was mine, wholly, completely, authentically mine, and that I had learned was worth more than any fantasy of what life was supposed to be. Reality, when you had the courage to build it on your own terms, was pretty damn spectacular. I reached over and squeezed Owen's hand, grateful for his presence in my life, but not dependent on it for my happiness. I was whole on my own. He added to that wholeness, but did not create it. That was the difference. That was what I had learned. That was what made everything different now. As we pulled up to my building, I looked up at my window, glowing warm against the rainy night. Behind that window was a life I was proud of, work that mattered, relationships that enriched me, a sense of self that no one could take away. It had taken an office party, a cruel dismissal, a broken marriage, and a year of painful growth to get here. But I had arrived, and it was worth every difficult step of the journey. I was home. Not just in the physical sense, but in the deepest meaning of the word. Home in myself, home in my life, home in the knowledge that I was exactly who I was meant to be. And that was the best award of all.